We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Vav on Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 106b. The Gemara is in the middle of darshaning psukim that are relevant to Bilam, and the Gemara continues and quotes a pasuk in Sefer Yoshua. The pasuk says, "Hargu v'nei Yisrael b'cherev." B'nei Yisrael they killed with the sword El Chalalehem. Among those who were killed, they killed Bilam. And the Gemara explains, Amar Rav says, "Shekaimu bo arba misos," that they fulfilled within him the 4 death penalties of the court. All of them happened to Bilam: skila, usreifa, hereg, v'chenek. Skila, stoning; streifa, burning; hereg, beheading; and chenek, strangulation. And Rashi explains, Hargu el Chalalehem, the Gemara is interpreting misos harbe mashma. It sounds like many deaths. Shetalu, that they hung him, vitzisu eish tachas atzliva, and then they also lit a fire underneath, v'chatchu rosho, they cut off his head, v'nafal esochesh, and he fell into the fire. Talia hainu chenek, and Rashi says, hanging, that's chenek, that's strangulation. Chatichas harosh, cutting off his head, hereg, that's hereg. Kishanafal la'aretz, when he falls to the earth, skila, that's skila. Kishanafal la'or, when he falls to the fire, hainu sreifa, that is burning. And the Gemara continues, Amar le'ahu mino l'Rabbi Chanina, a particular heretic said to Rabbi Chanina, Mishmielach Bilam bar kama have. Did you hear how old was Bilam when he died? Amar Lei said to him, Michtav lo kasav, it's not written, but Elami dechsib, but from the fact that the pasuk writes, this is a pasuk in Tehillim, it says, Anshe damim umirma lo yechetzu yemeim. It says those who are anshe damim, wicked people, men of blood, they don't live out half of their lives, meaning to say, they don't live out even half of a normal life. We'll assume that a normal life is 70 years old, so then we can assume that Bar Tzlasin Utzlashanin, that he was 33 years old, or Bar Tzlasin V'arba, or maybe he was 34 years old. Amar Lei said back to him, Shaper Klamar, what you're saying is actually correct. L'didi chazili pinkasi de Bilam, I saw the notebook of Bilam, V'avikasabein, it was written in it, Bar Tzlasin Utzlashanin, that Bilam was 33, Bilam Chagira, Bilam the lame was 33 years old, Kad Kotel Yosei, Pinchas Lista, when Pinchas, the plunderer, when he killed him. And the Gemara continues, Amarle Marbrei de Ravina Livrei, Marbrei de Ravina said to his son, Bekulu, by all of those who don't have a share in the world to come, Lotafis Lemidrash, don't try to darshan as much as possible negative things about them, Levar mi Bilam Harasha, except for Bilam Harasha. Dekabin de Mashkachas Bey, whatever you can find, the Rosh Bey, you should darshan with regards to him. Anything negative you could darshan, we should darshan with regards to Bilam Harasha. And the Gemara continues, Ksiv, in one place it's written Doeg, it's spelled with a Vav and an Aleph, Uksiv, and then in another place it's written Doeg, it's written with a Vav and 2 Yuds. And the Gemara explains, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, B'tchila, in the beginning, Yoshev HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'Doeg, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was sitting and worrying, that's Doeg with a Vav and an Aleph, Shema Yotzazel Tarbus Ra, that maybe this person would go out on a bad path, he would turn towards evil. But after he actually did go out and became evil, became wicked, Amar Vai Sheyotzazeh, so then that's the Vav Yud Yud, he said, woe is to this one, that this is what happened to him. And the Gemara continues with a mnemonic for the next 5 statements of Rabbi Yitzchak. Simon, the mnemonic is Gibor v'Rasha v'Tzadik Chayil v'Sofer. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak says, Ma'id Chsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk in Tehillim? Matis Halil Beroa HaGibor Chesed El Kol Hayom. And the Gemara will interpret the pasuk. Amar Lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Doeg. What's happening in this pasuk is HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to Doeg as follows: Lo Gibor Batorah Ata, aren't you great in Torah? Matis Halil Beroa. And Rashi explains, Amar Lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Doeg V'Halo Gibor Ata B'Torah. You're great in Torah. Lama Tishalil means L'Saper Lashon Hara Al David. Why are you speaking Lashon Hara? That's Berah. Why are you speaking this Lashon Hara about David HaMelech? Lo Chesed Kel Natoy Alecha Kol Hayom. And Rashi explains, Lo Chesed Torah Alecha, Lo Chacham B'Torah Ata. Aren't you wise in Torah? Techsiv V'Soras Chesed Alashona. Aren't you wise in Torah? Why are you doing that? And the Gemara continues with the second statement of Rabbi Yitzchak. V'Yamar Rabbi Yitzchak, and Rabbi Yitzchak says, Ma'id Chsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? This is also a pasuk in Tehillim. V'Lo Rosh Amar Lokim Malachol Saper Chukai. And the Gemara interprets this pasuk, Amar Lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Doeg HaRasha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Doeg the wicked, Malachol Saper Chukai. Why is it that you are speaking of my laws? Keshato Magia LeParshas Meratzchim UParshas Mesaprei Lashon Hara. You're going to learn all of my Torah, but when you reach the parsha about murderers, when you reach the parsha about people who speak Lashon Hara, Mata Doresh Bohem, what are you going to darshan about them. Vatisa berisi olai picha. And Rashi explains, Meratzchim shaharag Nov, they were murderers because he killed Nov. Olai picha velo belev. The Gemara says, what does it mean, olai picha? It means to say that it's in your mouth, but it's not in your heart. You're not actually following through. That's what the Gemara means to say over here. Mata doresh bohem, vatisa brisi olai picha. What are you going to darshan about them? It's all just something that's on your mouth, but it's not something that's internalized, as the Gemara now explains. Amar Rabbi Ami says, Ein Torah shel doeg ela misafa velachutz. The Torah of doeg, it was only from the edge to the outside. It was only on the surface level. It wasn't in the heart. And the Gemara continues with the next teaching of Rabbi Yitzchak. V'yamar Rabbi Yitzchak, and Rabbi Yitzchak says, Ma'ai dechsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? Also in Tehillim, the pasuk says, V'yiru tzadikim v'yiro, that tzadikim will see and they will fear. V'yolav yischaku, and then it talks about the fact that they are going to laugh. And the Gemara explains, B'tchila yiro, in the beginning they had fear. U'levasof yischaku, but at the end they were laughing. And Rashi explains, B'tchila yiro ha-tzadikim. In the beginning the tzadikim, they were afraid. Ha-yureim shelo yilmad adam imaisav shel doeg, that the people, they were afraid that people shouldn't learn from the deeds of doeg. Sheholech v'chotei matzliach, he was sinning and he was successful. Ulevasof, but at the end, keshemeis b'chatzi yamav, when he died in half his life, v'shav gemula barosho, when he was paid, he was punished accordingly. So Yitzchak said, so then at that point they would be happy. And the Gemara continues with the next teaching of Rav Yitzchak. V'yamar Rav Yitzchak, and Rav Yitzchak says, Ma'ai dechsiv. What does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? This pasuk is in Eov. The pasuk says, Chayil bola v'yakienu mi bitno yorishenu el. And Rashi explains, Chayil bola v'yakienu means to say, Hamtein ad shetishkach Torah, so wait until he forgets his Torah. The idea over here is Chayil bola, he swallowed, he knows a lot of Torah, v'yakienu, but then it's going to come out from him. And so therefore the idea is he's going to lose that Torah. As the Gemara now explains, Amar David, Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, David HaMelech said before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel, the master of the world, Yomas doeg should die. Amar Lo, he said to him, Chayil bola, he swallowed a lot, meaning again the idea is that he's had a lot of Torah, Vayakienu, and then so we have to wait until he loses that Torah. Amar Lefanov, he said, Mi bitno yorishenu kel, so he said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you should make sure that he forgets that Torah. We shouldn't wait around until he actually forgets it on his own. Rashi says, Amar Lefanov umi bitno yorishenu kel, as Rashi explains, Al tamtin lo ad shetishtachach, don't wait until he forgets it, Ela tamar v'tashkichenu, rather make it, hurry it up, speed it up, that he should forget his Torah. And the Gemara continues with the next teaching of Rav Yitzchak. V'yamar Rav Yitzchak, and Rav Yitzchak says, Ma'ai dechsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk in Tehillim, Gam kel yitotzcho lenetzach? And the Gemara explains, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu leDavid, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to David, Neisei doeg li'alma da'asi, doeg should come to the world to come, to Olam Haba. Amar Lefanov, he says before him, Gam kel yitotzcho lenetzach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should destroy you forever. And the Gemara now continues and darshans the rest of the pasuk. Ma'ai dechsiv, what does it mean when the pasuk goes on to say, when it's written, Yachdecha v'yisachacha me'oel v'sharescha me'eretz chayim sela? And the Gemara explains, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Leimru shmaita bei midrasha mishmei, let's say a teaching in the Beis Medrash in his name, Amar Lefanov, so he says before him, Yachdecha v'yisachacha me'oel, he shall pluck you away from your tent, we're going to totally remove him from Torah. But the Gemara continues, Lahavale binin rabbanim, well, at least let his sons be rabbanim, let them be scholars. And finally, that's what the pasuk is saying, V'sheireshcha me'eretz chayim sela, means to say completely rooted out, not even a continuation among his children. And Rashi explains Bei Midrasha by the Beis Medrash, Mei Ohel is that Beis HaMedrash, when it says in the pasuk Mei Ohel, that's a reference to the Beis Medrash in the pasuk. And then V'shareshcha me'eretz chayim sela shoresh alo techasach me'eretz chayim delo lahavalei b'nin rabbanan, he should be totally cut off, that even his sons should not be scholars. And finally, the Gemara continues with the last teaching of Rav Yitzchak. V'yamar Rav Yitzchak, and Rav Yitzchak says, Ma'ai dechsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk in Yeshayahu? Aye sofer, aye shokel, aye sofer samigdalim. Where's the one who counts? Where's the one who weighs? Where's the one who counts the towers? And the Gemara explains, Aye sofer kol osiel shebetorah. Where's the one who counts all of the letters in the Torah? Aye shokel, what does it mean? Aye shokel, sheshokel kol kalim v'chamurim shebetorah. He knows all the kal v'chomers in the Torah. And aye sofer samigdalim, what does does it mean Hayesofer Samigdalim Shayasofer Shlosh Meos Halachos Psukos B'Migdal HaPoreach Ba'avir, that he counts 300 halachos by Migdal HaPoreach Ba'avir. And Rashi explains Kol Osio Shabbatorah. What does it mean? All the letters in the Torah. Shayabaki b'chaseros v'yaseros. He was an expert talking about doeg. He was an expert at the words which are missing or having extra letters. Shokel kalim v'chamurim. He weighs the kal v'chomers. Yodea lidrosh b'kal v'chomer, meaning he knows how to darshan kal v'chomer. And finally, Rashi says, "B'migdal haporeach ba'avir." What does that mean? Meseg el yona shalamala min halamid. It's referring to the line that's at the top of the lamid. Mimnei makfufa lamata. Why is it bent down? That's the kinds of halachas which he understands. Lashon mori v'ravi mipi hashmua. That's what Rashi got from his Rebbe from tradition. Lishna achrin, another understanding of migdal haporeach ba'avir. B'migdal haporeach ba'avir hanichnas l'eretz ha'amim. We're talking about a migdal haporeach ba'avir, like a carriage that's going into Eretz ha'amim, that's going outside of Eretz Yisrael. B'sheid tevo migdal, somebody goes in one of these kinds of carriages, im hu tamei im lav. It's a question of whether he's tamei or not. And lishna achrin, another explanation, gimel me'as halachas b'migdal haporech ba'avir lasos kishav. We're talking about some kind of sorcery. Lahamid migdal ba'avir, in order to make the migdal go into the sky, go into the air. Ulamori near, into my Rebbe it appears, dahachi garsin and shlosh me'os halachas b'migdal ha'omed ba'avir, talking about where it's standing ba'avir. Umishna achas ba'olos, it's a particular mission in Olos, to mishtay b'hachi, migdal ha'omed ba'avir v'tumah b'socha. The Mishnah talks about a migdal that's in the air and there's tumah inside it, kelim shebesocho tameim, that the vessels inside of it are tamei. And so that's the final explanation that Rashi offers. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rebbe says, Arba meya boi bo, doeg v'achitofel b'migdal haporech ba'avir. There were 400 questions that Doeg and Achitofel asked with regards to migdal haporech ba'avir, v'lo ifshelu chad, and none was answered. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Ribusar l'mi boy, is it so great to ask questions? V'shnei Rav Yehuda kuli tanuya b'nezikin. In the years of Rav Yehuda, all they learned was nezikin. V'anon kamasninon tuva be'uksin, and we learn a lot of uksin. V'chi havim mati Rav Yehuda isha shekoveshes yerak b'kadeira. And when Rav Yehuda got to the mission on uksin of isha shekoveshes yerak b'kadeira, v'amri lo zeisim shekovshem b'tarfei and tahorim. Some say it was the Mishnah of zeisim shekovshem b'tarfei and tahorim. When he got there in uksin, Amar, he said, Havoyus de Rav Shmuel. I see over here the discussions of Rav Shmuel, meaning to say it's very difficult. V'anon, but we, kamasninon b'uksin, we learn uksin, tlos sorry mesifto, in 13 different academies they learn this. For Rav Yehuda, and yet, even though we seem to learn so much more, nevertheless, that Rav Yehuda, when it comes to Rav Yehuda, shalif mesani, he removes his shoe, v'asa mitra, and suddenly rain comes. V'anon savchinan, but we scream out, v'leka demashkach bon, and nobody pays any attention to us. El HaKadosh Baruch Hu liba boy. Rather, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants heart. It doesn't matter how much you learn. It matters that the person's heart is in the right place. T'chsiv, as it's written in the pasuk. This is a pasuk in Sefer Shmuel. The pasuk says, "V'Hashem yira lalev," that Hashem, he sees the heart. And the Gemara continues, Amar of Mesharshia says, Doeg v'Achitofel lo hava savri shemaita. Doeg and Achitofel, they didn't understand their learning. The Gemara continues, Maskefla Marzutra. Marzutra asks on this, Man dechsiv bei Aye Sofer, Aye Shokel, Aye Sofer Samigdalim, the one who it's written about, he's the one that counts and that weighs and that counts the Migdalim. Viata Amrit lo have a savri shmaita, and you think they didn't understand the learning. Ella, rather, what it really means is, de lo have a salkelu shmaita, aliba de hilcha, so they weren't able to conclude their learning according to the final halacha. Dechsiv, as it's written, Sod Hashem lirei, of the secrets of Hashem, that only goes to those who fear him. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yami says, Lo meis doeg at sheshachach talmudo. Doeg did not die until he forgot his learning. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk in Mishlei, Hu yamus bein musar, he dies without instruction. Uverovi valto ishken, because of his folly he goes astray. The idea over here is that he dies without his learning. And the Gemara continues, Rav Amar Nitztara. Rav says that he got saras before he died. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Hitzmata kol zona mimeko. It's talking about Hitzmata means to say destroy, but the Gemara is going to darsh in the pasuk. Siv Hasam, it's written over there, Latzmisus. It's written in the pasuk Latzmisus. It's talking about the fact that you can't sell the land to Latzmisus. You can't sell it in a forever kind of fashion. But that word Latzmisus, that's similar to the word Hitzmata. Umitargaminan lachalutin. And when we have the translation of Latzmisus, the translation is lach lachalutin. Utnanan, we learned in the Mishnah, ein bein muskar u muchlot ela prio frima. The only difference between a mitzora that's a muskar, the mitzora that's a muskar is the one that is forced to be quarantined, and the muchlot is the one who's confirmed. The only difference is prio frima, but the point over here is that the word for the mitzora is muchlot, that connects to the word lachalutin, which connects to the word litzmisus, and that's what we understand hitzmata. Again, hitzmata, that's a reference to the fact that Doeg got saras before he died. And the Gemara continues with an mnemonic for the following teachings of Rabbi Yochanan, Siman Shlosha Ro V'Chatzi V'Karu. Rabbi Yochanan says, Shlosha Malachei Chavola Nizdamnu Lo LeDoeg. There were 3 angels of destruction that came to Doeg. Echad Sheshachach Talmuda, one caused him to forget his learning. V'echad Shesaraf Nishmasa, one burned his soul. V'echad Shepizar Afaro B'vatei Knasios V'vatei Midrashos, and one that spread his ashes in the Batei Knasios, the synagogues, and the Batei Midrashos. And the Gemara continues, V'yam Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says, the second teaching of Rabbi Yochanan, Doeg v'Achitofel lo ro zeh zeh. Doeg and Achitofel didn't see one another. Doeg b'mei Shol, Doeg lived in the times of Shol, v'Achitofel b'mei David, and Achitofel lived in the days of David. V'yamar Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says, Doeg v'Achitofel lo chatzu yimeim. Doeg and Achitofel, they did not live out half their days, assuming that a person lives for 70 years, they did not even live out half. And the Gemara says, Tanya nami hachi, we have a brisa like this as well. Anshe damam umirma lo yachatzu yimeim. It says that people of blood, evil, wicked people, they don't live out half of their days. Kol shnosav shel Doeg lo hayu ela shloshim v'yarba. All the years of Doeg, it only amounted to 34 years. V'shel Achitofel einan ela shloshim v'shalosh. And Achitofel was only 33 years. V'yamar Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says, B'tchila kara David la'Achitofel Rabo. Originally, David called Achitofel his Rebbe. Ulevasov karo Chaveru. Eventually, he called him his colleague. Ulevasov karo Talmido. And ultimately, he called him his student. B'tchila karo Rabo. In the beginning, he calls him his Rebbe, as the pasuk says in Tehillim, V'ata enosh ke'erki alufi umyudoi. Rashi says alufi is a language of a Rebbe. Ulevasov karo Chaveru. At the end, he calls him his colleague. And the Gemara brings another pasuk in Tehillim, Asher yachtav nam tiksod beveis elokim nahalech baragash. We're going to walk together. And finally, the Gemara says, Ulevasov karo Talmido. At the end, he called him his student, as the pasuk says in Tehillim, Gamish shlomi asher batachti bo, my familiar friend in whom I trusted. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph.